Hi, 7th graders. We are moving on to 1.4, which is multiplying integers. And we have two main ideas. The first is, well, both of them deal with what types of signs we have. So the first one, multiplying integers with the same sign, okay? Same sign, that's important. So, for example, maybe you have a positive number and a positive number. That would be the same sign that are multiplying together. And so when we have integers that have the same sign and we're multiplying them, the product of the two integers with the same sign is always going to be positive. Okay, so for example, here we have positive 2 times positive 3, so the same sign is going to give me a positive answer. Okay, that's what you've known in the past. The same holds true when we move on to two negative numbers multiplying together. So we have negative 2 times a negative 3 that has they both have the same sign. They both have negative signs in front of them. And again, our answer is going to be positive. Okay, positive 6. When we have different signs, so multiplying integers with different signs, the product of the two integers with different signs is always negative. Okay, so for example, here I have a positive 2 and a negative 3. Those are different signs, so my answer is going to be a negative number. Same thing, negative 2 times positive 3, different signs, one's negative, one's positive, so my answer is going to be negative. Another way to think about it is kind of in this chart. When we take a look at, if you were to line up your numbers, we have factor 1, multiplying by factor 2, there's like a multiplying sign, and then you get an equals your product. Okay, well, as long as our two numbers have the same sign, they're going to be positive. So positive and positive will get you a positive answer. Negative and negative would get you a positive answer. And when they have different signs, so these two examples right here, one's positive, one's negative, and then one's negative, one's positive, you're going to have two, they're both going to give you a negative answer. So that's a different way to think about it in kind of a chart form. So find negative 8 times negative 12. So again, I'm first going to identify what I have. I have two negative numbers right here. So I have the same sign, and that means that my answer is going to be positive because I have the same sign. So then, once I know that my answer is going to be positive, I can look at just my integers that I have. So really, when I'm writing this out, negative 8 times, and I don't have on my program, I don't have a little dot, so you can use a little dot for your multiplication sign or a star, or you can put them in parentheses, times negative 12. Okay, when I have that, I can kind of forget about the signs that go with them and just think about the integers that are multiplying by each other. 8 times 12 is going to give me 96. So 96, and then I think back to what my signs tell me to do. So here I figured out before I started that they have the same sign, so my answer is positive. I don't have to do any more. My answer is just positive 96. Find 9 times, and when there's no sign in between the parentheses like here, when there's just a parenthesis and a number right outside of it, that means multiplication. 9 times a negative 7. So again, I'm going to think to myself, I have one positive number, and then I have a negative number, so that means that they're different signs. Okay, and so that means my answer is negative, because they're different signs. Now, again, I think about I can rewrite it if I want, I can write it however I want. Then, once I've figured that out, now I look at my integers. I have a 9 here, and I have a 7, it's negative 7, but I'm just thinking about the integer that's without the sign. That's going to give me an answer of 63. 9 times 7 is 63. And because I figured out that my answer is negative, I have to put a negative sign out in front of that. It's going to be negative 63 is my answer. find negative 6 times positive 6. So I have a negative sign here, and I have a positive number because there's no negative sign, so that means my answer, because they're different signs, is going to be negative. Oh. It's going to be negative. Okay. Now, once I figured that out, again, I think back to my integers. I have negative 6 times 6. So I think about the integers without the sign. 6 times 6 would be 36. And because I know and I figured out before that I have a negative answer, I put that negative sign out in front. So my final answer is negative 36. Evaluate, and now this looks a little weird. The other way you can see this, my program doesn't really let me write this way, but the other way this would look would be negative 8 squared. This little caret right here, they call it a caret, just means raised to the second power or raised to the little 2. So that's the other way to look at it, and this means that little 2 in the corner again, exponent 2, means that I have 2 negative 8s being multiplied together. And so I can rewrite that as negative 8 times negative 8. I don't need to put a multiplication sign in between because there's parentheses. And so now I can look and I can say, okay, I have 2 negative numbers. That means they're the same sign. So my answer is going to be positive, okay, because they're the same sign. Now I think about the integers that I have without their signs. 8 times 8, that's going to give me 64. And because I have 2 of the same signs, then it's going to be a positive answer. Okay? It's important to notice up here that this negative 8 is in parentheses and the exponent is outside of the parentheses. Okay? Because exponents come first, if it was written like this, that would be a different thing because the exponents would come first. They're directly connected to this 8. So then, if it was written like that, it would really be like this. 8 times 8 itself, and then I would have to take the opposite of that answer later on. So be careful with your parentheses. This is a whole different problem, okay? Evaluate negative 9 squared. Again, what that means right now, there's no parentheses like I mentioned before. So what that means is I have negative 9 squared, and that square, or that exponent 2, goes directly to the 9. Exponents come first before anything. So it's really, another way to write this is that the negative sign is out in front, parenthesis, first I do my 9 squared, okay, and then I take the opposite of that is what this sign out in front means. So because of that, the other way to write that is squared means I have 2 9s being multiplied together, and because there is no parentheses, it's not a negative 9 being multiplied together. It's going directly to that positive 9. So because I have 2 9s being multiplied together, they're the same sign. I'm not going to worry about this this negative sign out in front just yet. That comes after, because right now I have to do what's in the parentheses first. So first I'm doing my 2 positive 9s multiplied together. That means they're the same sign, so I'm just going to do 9 times 9 is 81. I don't have to worry about anything else. And now this negative sign out in front means taking the opposite of that. Well, the opposite of 81 is going to be just negative 81. Okay? It's very different. Again, I mentioned this before. That problem is not the same as negative 9 in parentheses square. Because what this means is that the negative 9 is multiplied by itself 2 times. Negative 9 times negative 9. That's very different than what we had here, which was positive 9 times positive 9. Okay? So keep that in mind. This is not what it was. This is this problem.